privileges that we are given that we don't earn. So as somebody, as for myself, who is walking through the world in privileged white skin, I have been given things that I haven't earned. I have had right from very early on where if I say did something in school that I shouldn't have done, I was given the benefit of the doubt by teachers, and whereas somebody else might not be given the same benefit because of some of the assumptions that we're all carrying around in our heads already about race and about what we're expecting from people of certain races and not others. So I think about things like I've, as a young person, I was able to talk my way into things or talk my way out of things, and I'm not sure that I might not have recognized that at the time, but I recognize now that some of that is that I was already given the benefit of the doubt to start with, given the opportunity to talk my way into or out of something, because the assumption was that my intentions were good already, and partly because of the privileged look that I'm walking
Yeah.
around with.
Because there definitely, I mean, I think it's quite obvious, right, that there is a superiority, around white and being fair skinned.
Yeah, there's an assumed superiority,
Yeah,
but
right. That's a
not
good
an
way to put that,
actual
actually.
superiority. But
Assumed superiority. That's a good
um,
way to put it.
I shouldn't have let Beth go first
so
because I have to leave at 4:30.
does that answer your
Yeah,
question?
that's good. So the next question then is, how have you experienced racism, or how have you witnessed racism?
This is the one that makes me uncomfortable. um, there are, I mean, there's been lots of examples. Um, I don't know. I have to pause. I
That's
don't know what
okay.
examples to use. Like, are any of the ones that I talked about before the kind of
Yeah,
thing?
anything that comes to mind, actually, of how you've, witnessed, you know, racism, or how did you come to recognize racism, or that there was racism?
Okay. I don't know why I'm struggling so much with this one. How did I come to recognize that there was racism? Okay, well, okay, I think I'm ready.
Okay.
An example of, well, okay, so living in a city like Saskatoon, I think it's hard not to notice that a lot of our neighborhoods are really defined by race. So where you have very high percentages of one race living in one neighborhood and another race living in other neighborhoods, and not as much mixing of the two that I would, or of the many that I would expect. So in one of my first years living in Saskatoon, I was very excited to go on the Take Back the Night walk. I heard that there was a Take Back the Night walk, and I wanted to take my children. It's a cause and a social justice issue that's very important to me. And I asked a couple of friends who are also white to come with me, because I thought, of course, they were women, they probably would have the same concern about going along. We went, or I asked them if they wanted to come. They hadn't heard about it, and I mentioned that it was starting in the River Landing area, then ending at the White Buffalo Lodge. And one of the women did come. Another friend that I asked to come said she was very nervous about going because she didn't feel comfortable walking in that neighborhood at night. And she was talking about the neighborhood around the White Buffalo Youth Lodge. And I thought that is the whole idea
I know, isn't that the
to
point?
me, because
Just to
we
take
would
back
walk
the night.
there as a group and be there together in order to raise awareness to the fact that there are a lot of people who the very neighborhood they live in might not make them feel safe at night, and that neighborhood, I mean, that neighborhood has a much higher proportion of Indigenous people than the neighborhood that I live in Nutana across the river. And the fact that there are any people, or that it would be okay for one group of people to have to walk in a neighborhood they don't feel safe in, and for to not feel like you need to then walk together with those sisters and brothers who to make sure that everybody is feeling safe in their neighborhood, just seemed like a very odd thing to say. And immediately my mind went to, why? Why?
Yeah. If you were going to finish the statement, I am the bridge to ending racism in Saskatoon, what would you say?
I would say that in order to be a bridge, it's important for me to, wherever I can, use the voice that I have. And again, I feel that oftentimes the voice that I have is part of that unearned voice. I have the ability to speak out about things because of the privilege that I have, and to use that in order to make sure that when I encounter racism, that I say something, that I don't just let it go. And I think it's also a big responsibility and part of being a bridge to make an effort to understand how other communities are living, how other cultures work, where people are coming from, and what kinds of experiences they might have had in their lives that are leading them to where they are right now.
Perfect.